everyone, my name is Thandiwe Muriu and this is my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a lens review of the 6.5mm Opteka lens. That's an f3.5 lens. But before I do it, I want to say if this is your first time watching the channel, thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button to get videos like this every Monday and Thursday. So, straight onto the lens. The Opteka lens is a fisheye lens that's 6.5 millimeters. So essentially what that means is that if somebody is standing slightly in front of you as you use the lens, they'll actually appear in the picture. Now, because it's a fisheye lens, I don't really use lenses like this a lot. They're for one or two wow shots. So let's say I'm shooting a couple at a wedding outdoors and I want to show the great, amazing sky above them on sunset and want to get more of an epic shot. This is a lens that I'd use. One of the things with the lens though is distortion. Because it's not a flat surface and because it's curved, what happens is anything at the edge of the frame of the lens gets distorted. It almost bends in, it curves, which can be a really nice effect, let's say if you're shooting indoors, but sometimes it may be undesirable. So you need to watch out for that when using this lens. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that this lens only costs $160, which makes it an extremely affordable lens. And I'll put a link to it in the description box below. So if you want to use Savo Store to get this lens, you can go ahead and do that. Just kind of to give you an idea of how affordable this lens is, Canon has an 8 to 15mm f4 lens, so that's a fisheye lens, that goes for $1,250, so significantly more than $160. Nikon has a 10 to 24mm lens, that's f3.5, and it goes for $1,900, that's 190,000 shillings. So if you wanted to get a brand name lens that's fisheye, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands, whereas this guy is 160, so that's amazing. So for $160, that's 16,000. I wasn't really sure what to expect when the lens came, but I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that it's relatively well built. So compared to the brand name lenses that I use, the plastic is definitely much thinner, but the lens is actually quite nice and heavy, so you don't feel like you're carrying paper, which is good. You want to be able to hold something significant with your camera. But again, it's not too heavy that you get tired shooting with it for long periods of time. That said, this is not a very durable lens, so I feel like if I dropped it when I was testing it, it would actually shatter to a million pieces. Compared to the other Nikon or Canon lenses that I've used, they can withstand maybe one or two solid drops, even if they're made of plastic. So that's one of the cons of this lens. Another issue I noticed with the lens was that the lens hood, which is this guy over here, if you shoot with a lens hood on top of the lens, you will always see the edges of the black on the edges of your picture, which is resolved by shooting without it, so just take it off. However, when you take it off, you can't store it backwards like most other lenses. You could actually put the lens hood facing back so that it's stored on your lens, but it's not getting in the way in your picture. With this one, you can't do that, which means that if I want to take it off, I either have to put it in my bag, or sometimes what I do is I wear it as a bangle to make sure it doesn't get lost. But that makes it a bit of a pain to have. I actually wouldn't just carry it at all with the lens. I'd prefer to carry the lens this way, okay? But that brings me to the third issue with this lens. You can't carry the lens without the lens hood, because in order to put on the lens cap, you need to have the lens hood there. So it's what holds the lens cap in place. If I put the lens cap on, or I try to put the lens cap on, what happens is that the base of the lens cap will hit against the actual glass of the lens and it won't lock into place. So yeah, that I'd say is a design issue with this lens. When it comes to the uses of this lens, the 6.5 would be amazing to use if you're an architectural photographer. Possibly if you're shooting landscapes, if you want a more dramatic look to your landscapes. Also, if you shoot in tight spaces regularly. So wedding photographers, this is a really good one for the dance floor, or in morning preparations, if you want to show what's happening in the whole room. This lens is good for those one or two shots. But like I said before, it's a specialist lens, so you're not going to use it very often, maybe 1 or 2% of the time that you're actually shooting. That's how much I use mine. One of the really important things to note about this Opteka is that it's a manual lens. So when you put it on your camera, it won't automatically, when you change your aperture on your camera, it won't change the aperture on the lens. You must actually turn this ring over here to change your aperture. So that's a manual lens. So there's a ring both for the focus as well as for your aperture. But that's not really an issue because usually you set your aperture and you move it occasionally. So I wouldn't take that, hold that against this lens. When it comes to the focus ring, I find it's actually quite smooth trying to focus with this lens. It doesn't stick at all when you're turning the focus ring, meaning that you won't get, some lenses have a very jerky movement when you're trying to either zoom with them or turn the focus ring. So I was impressed by that about this lens. So I tested this lens in several situations. One of them was taking cityscape shots, and the other one was indoors for architectural photography. And one of the biggest issues I found, which I think falls across the board for fisheye lenses, is that it was very hard to see when my lens was in focus and when it wasn't. Because it's showing me such a huge view, I couldn't isolate one thing to test my focus on. So I found myself taking the picture, checking the back of my camera, zooming in to see what's in focus and what's not, and then adjusting accordingly. So even if I had focusing issues with this lens, because it's a manual focus, it can't work with the focusing technology in your camera. That really is a non-issue because it's a fisheye lens, meaning it's going to shoot such a broad scene. Most of the time you're going to end up at a higher f-stop. So that means most things in the foreground and in the background are going to be in focus. But still, it's worth noting that it was very difficult to focus with this lens. When it comes to sharpness, I was actually impressed with this lens and pleasantly surprised. I had very low expectations of its sharpness because of the price range it's at, but the images are sharp. They're not super sharp, but they're good. They're actually usable. And you can see an example on screen of the sharpness I got with this lens. For those of you who shoot in low light, this would be a nice lens to have because it does go down all the way to f3.5, meaning that the hole in the lens is so wide open, it lets in a lot of the ambient light in your scene onto the sensor, allowing for brighter images. The Nikon and the Canon equivalents are f4 and higher. So in terms of low light performance, this actually does better than those lenses because it gives you the option of having a lower f-stop. When it comes to shooting with this lens in direct sunlight, because of how curved the lens is, I found that a lot of the times I get lens flare, which is the light shining into my lens and creating circles around the lens. But that can be resolved by how you position yourself. It wouldn't be resolved by using the lens hood, which is this guy, because like I said before, it shows in the shot if you use it. So there's two sides to this lens. It does come with a lens hood, but you can't really use it. So when lens flare is an issue, you actually have to reposition yourself to fight that issue. So I know I've said a lot of things about this lens and you may be wondering, is it a lens I should get or shouldn't get? All in all, I'd actually say this is a great lens to have if you're looking to buy a fisheye lens. Number one, because you're not going to use it so much, and brand name fisheye lenses cost thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of shillings, then this is a great lens to have in your kit for those 1 or 2 times you want to create a more unique looking shot. Secondly, it also has really good color and sharpness. They're acceptable levels, so you can take good images with this lens in the right condition. And then thirdly, just the fact that it goes down to f3.5 means that in low light situations, this lens will actually be a big help compared to, for example, Canon's lens that goes all the way down to f4 only. So the amazing people at Savo Store heard about the video I did where I talked about how I ship in gear with them, and they've partnered with me to give away this lens. To give away this lens, I'm going to run a competition. So there's 3 terms and conditions. Number 1, you must be a subscriber to the channel. And then secondly, you need to submit the image that you best think shows the beauty of Kenya. We're being patriotic here, guys. And the image you submit has to be taken from February 1st onwards. So no images from January and no images from last year. It must be from February 1st onwards, 2017 February. Make sure you tag me on the images on Instagram, which is @_Thandiwe Muriu, or on Facebook, so tag Thandiwe Muriu Photography. And in 2 weeks, I'll announce who the winner is. Thanks for watching. I hope that was a helpful review of the Opteka 6.5mm lens. If you have any questions or comments about the giveaway or about fisheye lenses in general, please be sure to put them in the comment section below so that we can get a conversation going. For those of you who it's your first time watching the channel, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to get videos like this every Monday and Thursday. For those of you who it's not your first time watching the channel, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your photography journey. Any gear mentioned in this video is listed in the description box below, so you know where to get it. If you want to interact with me on social media, I'm available on Snapchat, on my website www.thandiwemuriu.com, and on Facebook and Instagram. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. That's it for now. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.